Hello, hello, hello. Now we're on. We're going to go ahead and get started here tonight, guys. I want to welcome you all to the regularly scheduled City Council meeting for the governing body of Spring Hill, Kansas on August 24th, 2023. If you guys would like to stand with me, we have Pastor Joel Atwell with us to do the invocation. Maybe. I don't see him here yet, so I'll go ahead and do it in his place. Father God, thank you for bringing us all together here this evening, God. Help us to make the best decisions for our citizens, God, and just give us wisdom and guidance as we do that. Help us to do that to the best of our ability. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mrs. Roth? Here. Mr. Peel?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mrs. North? Here. Mr. Van Houten?
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. We did get a request from staff to amend item 8 to consider change order number 2 and number 3 to the street maintenance base repair and crack seal project with McEnany Construction of Shawnee, Kansas, in the total amount of $286,243.75. With that, are there any other requested or amendments to the current agenda? If not, I entertain a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next, we'll move on to a proclamation. September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and we have Mrs. Faith Burdine with us of the Johnson County Suicide Prevention Coalition that would like to speak.
Hi, good evening. I just want to say thank you on behalf of Johnson County Suicide Prevention Coalition for this proclamation for September as being National Suicide Prevention Month. One of the things that we can do to combat suicide and help prevent suicide is by raising awareness and also raising awareness for resources in the community. So by doing this, I think it just sheds some more light and helps us share the news and share resources with the community. So thank you so much on behalf of Johnson County Suicide Prevention Coalition.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
September is known around the United States as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, as it is intended to help promote awareness surrounding each of the suicide prevention resources available to us and our community. The simple goal is to learn how to help those around us and how to talk about suicide without increasing the risk of harm and suicidal thoughts that can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, income level, religion, background. And according to the CDC, each year more than 41,000 people die by suicide, or 1 every 12 minutes. Suicide is the 10th leading cause of death among young adults in the United States and the 2nd leading cause of death among people ages 10 to 24. Many people who struggle with thoughts of suicide have not received effective behavioral health services for many reasons, including the difficulty of accessing services, the stigma of behavioral health treatment, and the stigma associated with losing a loved one to suicide. Every member of our community should understand that throughout life's struggles, we all need an occasional reminder that we are silently fighting our own battles, and we encourage all residents to take that time to inquire to the well-being of their family, friends, and neighbors over the next few days, and to genuinely convey their appreciation for existence by any gesture they deem appropriate. A simple phone call, message, handshake, or hug can go a long way towards helping someone realize that suicide is not the answer. Now, therefore, may it be resolved that I, Joe Berkey, Mayor of the City of Spring Hill, Kansas, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2023 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in the City of Spring Hill, Kansas. In the witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Spring Hill, Kansas to be affixed on this 24th day of August 2023. Thank you. Thank you, guys. And just speaking from a personal level, I actually had one of my younger sisters committed suicide about 6 years ago. So it hits home to me as well. I was actually overseas at the time when it happened, had to fly by. Some people don't know I'm a musician as well, and so I actually had to fly back into the States and play at her funeral, which was a pretty hard thing to do, to play music at your little sister's funeral. So it definitely hits home to me. So if you know anyone that may be struggling with that, definitely reach out to them and talk with them. So, all right. Next, moving on, we have citizen participation. This is a time where citizens can come up and speak what's on their mind. I will just keep in mind that we do have the revenue neutral rate hearing later on. So if that's what you're coming to speak about, that would be your time to come speak about that. So if there's anyone else in the audience that wants to speak about anything else, now is your time. If you could just step up and state your name and your address. We did not have anybody sign up specifically for that other than the revenue neutral rate, but if there is anyone in the audience that would like to, now would be your time. All right, we'll go ahead and close the citizen participation at this time. We'll move on to a presentation. The first presentation is a 2022 audit, and Sean Gordon, CPA, is with us via Zoom, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll get started with the audit report that you saw in your agenda packets. And we'll start with pages 1 through 2. This is called the Independent Auditor's Report. Here we discuss a variety of things, but the most important kind of paragraph and our most important duty as auditors is to issue an opinion on the city's financial statements for the 12/31/2022 year end. So you'll see in the first paragraph on page 1, the opinion paragraph. The second paragraph starts, in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects. So that means that the highest and cleanest opinion we could issue the city's financial statements for 22, we did issue. So it reflects very well on the financial and internal control management of the city's finances during that time period. Further on down in this section, we talk about management and the council's responsibilities for the city's finances and financial statements, and then a few more of our responsibilities as auditor as well. The next section forward starts on page 3 and runs through page 8, and this is called the Management's Discussion and Analysis section. So this section discusses 2022 financial highlights from management's perspectives. So in this section, we talk about the accounting function of the city as a whole, reporting highlights, changes in assets, overall revenue and expenditure performance, budget highlights, and then fixed asset and debt administration for that time period. And then the next kind of big section forward starts on page 9 through 10, and these are what's typically called the balance sheet and the income statement. So page 9 presents all of the different assets, liabilities, and ending and net position of the city as of 12/31/2022. And then page 10 is what's commonly referred to as the income statement, and it shows all of the different revenues and expenses of the city, broken down between governmental and then business type activities. And you'll see at the very bottom of that right-hand column, the total net position that the city had as of 12/31/2022. The next section forward starts on page 11 and runs through page 25. This section is called the Notes to the Financial Statements. Here we discuss a variety of items, a lot of items, but they're mostly the highlights here are talking about information on the city's accounting policies that it follows. There's information on long-term debt activity, capital asset activity, involvement in the Capers retirement program. Like I said, many items are discussed in this section. And then the final section forward starts on page 50 and runs through page 57. And these are just more information on some of the smaller funds of the city. There's budgetary comparisons presented in this section as well. So like I said, some of the smaller funds of the city in this section. We did not have any auditors' recommendations to communicate to the mayor and the council for 2022 audit, which again just shows that there was good financial and internal control management during the 2022 calendar year by the financial staff, everybody involved throughout the accounting and the auditing process. If you have any questions on that, please let me know.
Do we have any questions or comments by any of the council members?
Just to clarify, you said you were able to give the city, I think it was your highest, cleanest valuation, is that correct?
That the highest and cleanest opinion, that's correct.
Gotcha. And is there, I mean, I'm assuming you're just describing your thoughts and feelings on it, or is there an actual like ranking system that you use?
Yeah, well, there's different opinions that auditors can issue, and that follows federal and state guidelines. So an unmodified opinion is the highest and cleanest that we can issue, which is what we did issue. Other than that, there's modified and qualified, and then a few other opinions, but unmodified is what we issued for Spring Hill's 2022 financial statements.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on that?
It says net position increase was about 4.8 million. Is that correct?
That is correct on page 10.
Okay.
All right, if there are no further questions, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to the first of the public hearings, revenue neutral rate for the fire, I'm sorry. Next, we'll move on to a presentation by Jim Francis, and it's a budget mill levy for Johnson County Fire District Number 2. Fire Services Administrator of Johnson County, Kansas, Mr. Jim Francis. Sorry about that, about skipped you over.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for having me here tonight. Before we get going tonight, I need to do an introduction. Fire District 1, who serves Spring Hill here, has a new interim fire chief. He's here with us tonight. So Trig Morley, 25-plus year veteran with Fire District 1, so I wanted to introduce him. So, Chief Morley.
I just wanted to, thank you. I just wanted to come and I appreciate Chief Francis introducing me. Like you said, I've been with Fire District 1 for 25 years and currently serving in the interim role. We do like to engage with our community partners, and so I look forward to seeing you guys on a regular basis and visiting, be available for questions, share any concerns you have with the fire service for the community. So thanks for having me tonight.
Thank you both for your service. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you. All right, I've got a PowerPoint to go through here. So, as the introduction stated, I'm the Fire Services Administrator for Johnson County, and I oversee Fire District 2's contracts, assets. So let me go through a little bit of these duties. So I'm responsible for the management of the assets and finances, including the contracts, and we have several: Spring Hill, Miami County Fire District 2, Overland Park, Fire District 1. We have a Fire District 1 code enforcement agreement as well. And I'm the responsible party for the planning and financial management, basically, of everything Fire District 2. And if you recall, so almost 2 years ago, we transitioned to contract services, and this is really still a work in progress, if you will. There's still some further defining to be done, structural with Fire District 2 on what ends up happening with that. So November 28, 2021, 20 of our employees went to work at Fire District 1. Fire District 2 pays for 22 positions. 21 of those are assigned at the Spring Hill Fire Station. So a lot of the same employees that were employed by Fire District 2 are still in the same building here, operating the same equipment. They just wear a different uniform. So as I stated, Fire District 2 owns the apparatus, owns the fire stations. Let's see, I think I've gone through all that. And we do have a contract with Miami County Fire District 2, which is we're year 2 of a 5-year agreement. And then the Overland Park area, east of Lackman Road, is contracted out. That's a 10-year term on that. So that has 8 years remaining on that. Just to update you, refresh your memory about the staffing at your station here in Spring Hill. We do have a battalion chief assigned to the station, a fire captain, a lieutenant, 4 firefighters. There are 2 paramedics with Johnson County Med Act. Medac doesn't pay the fire district to live there. Fire district provides that there for the county paramedics. And at least one of the on-duty crews of the fire crew is a certified paramedic. So you should have, unless you have back-to-back calls, you should have a paramedic in the building all the time. The minimum staffing level is just one less than what I stated. So you'll always have 6 people up there, including battalion chief, plus 2 with Johnson County Med Act. And one of those fire crew members will be a paramedic at all times. Just to let you know, we ordered a new fleet. I think I spoke to the council last year about that. We ordered a new fleet in January of 2022. I'm glad we did at the time because prices skyrocketed shortly after that order was placed. And the order was actually made early to avoid a cost increase. And there were about 5 other cost increases that happened right after that order was placed. So the timing was great because it literally saved us $1 million. Going through what we ordered here, your main engine, what we call engine 84, it was $825,000 when we ordered it. It's over $1 million today. The ladder truck, which is also on order, I think we paid close to $750,000 for that when we bought it new. That truck is now 14 years old. A year and a half ago, it was $1,150,000. The new cost for that truck is $1,500,000. Unfortunately, because of delays, like everything else in the world today, everything's been delayed. So the apparatus keeps getting kicked back. Well, the latest delivery date we understand is March of 2024. So we're looking forward to that because we have had to pay more in maintenance costs for the existing fleet. So, and we will be keeping 2 of those engines when we do the fleet replacement to ensure that we have a reserve from the city as well. And I should just note, we did replace what we call tender, which is a tanker truck. That was replaced a couple of years ago. Just wanted to go over the mill levy history. So as you know, Spring Hill, the portion of the city that's in the contract area, which is 1 square mile of Johnson County, basically Woodland to Lone Elm, 207th Street to South Street. And then everything in Miami County is the fire service contract area. So you have your own fire mill levy for that. In the other areas of the city, the fire district applies its mill levy for that territory. So if you can look to the comparison of the fire service contract area mill levy compared to the Fire District 2 general fund levy, the goal has been for quite some time to equalize those so neighbors literally aren't paying differences, because years ago they were. One side of the street would pay higher than the other. So the contract last year was the first year that we had a funding formula that allowed for the assessed valuation of the contract area to be times Fire District 2's general fund mill levy. And that fairly equalized. It's not perfect, but it's closer than we've ever been. So we want to thank you for doing that. And that's what we're proposing for next year's agreement as well. And I'll get into that here in a second. So as I indicated, the goal is to equalize that levy. You can see it's the assessed valuation times FD2's general fund levy. Fire district's overall levy right now is 16.072. We do have 2 bonds. One is the fire station that's at 19120 Metcalf. That bond will be paid off in 2030. And we have the bond issue that was done for this fleet in 2021. So that's paid off in 2031. So the current mill levy is 16.072, but the general fund levy is 14.129. So I can proudly say that we've been able to lower the tax levy, general fund levy, or the total levy 8 years in a row now. So overall, the Fire District 2 general fund tax levy that we proposed this year, which the board authorized today, will be a reduction of 0.251 mils of the general fund levy, takes it down to 13.878. The assessed valuation, as I understand it, of the contract area is a little over 80 million. So times the levy that we're proposing, That increases the contract value to $1,114,384. 2024, we're proposing this one-year agreement. Now, as I indicated last year, and literally 25 years before that, the goal of Fire District 2 is to have the portion of the city that's not in Fire District 2 join Fire District 2. If that were to happen, then the contract, there'd be no need for the contract. Then you guys would stop applying your fire service levy and Fire District 2's levy would be applied. And even though the city straddles the county line, there's a state statute that allows for that. We have done some legal research on that. But it would be the desire of Fire District 2 for Spring Hill's governing body to elect to do that and take action on that sometime between now and preferably next June. For it to occur January 1st, 2025, that action would need to be taken by both governing bodies, your governing body and the Board of County Commission, prior to July 1st, if my memory is correct. I don't want to act like an attorney up here, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So that's what we'd like to see happen, and there is language in the proposed agreement that discusses that as well. So then if that action were taken, then January 1st, 2025, there would be no need for a further contract. And I should also state, the bond debt that Fire District 2 already has, if you opted to join the fire district, would not be applied to the new area that you join the district. You would get a pass on that. So just to let you know. Any questions on that?
That was my main question, if that would inherit the current bonds if you were to join. But
Now, I do have our bond counsel is behind me as well. I know
Yeah.
your bond counsel, so I don't hear Tyler screaming, so I must be stating
Yeah.
something correct.
Is there any other cost benefits to that part of the city for joining, or is it really just make it a little bit easier accounting wise?
It's probably just a little easier for everybody. We don't have to go back and visit this every year. So that would be our desire, that we move that portion of the city into the fire district and work out those details. And I know county legal would be more than willing to help navigate what is required to do that over the next few months. But ideally, it would need to occur probably sooner than later, but at the latest, probably first or early second quarter of next year, because it really has to be signed, sealed, and delivered before July 1st in order for it to take effect January 1st, 2025.
I know we talked about it last year. Was there a reason why we didn't talk about it earlier on in this year?
Would you say been 25 years you've been dealing with this?
Probably more than that.
So why hasn't it gone, what's the obstacle?
You know,
What's the roadblock?
for years,
We need to overcome?
there was a substantial difference between the fire district's general fund tax levy and the cities. And that made this harder to talk about.
Sure.
So we worked hard over the last few years to try and equalize those tax levies, and we've gotten there now. So prior to that, there was always a little reluctance from the previous governing bodies to move that direction because there was a big difference in the tax levies. Well, I think we've removed that obstacle now.
I had a question that's kind of related. I know there was some talk that the current station needed some updates and some renovation and stuff on it. How does that affect?
I'm
Any
glad you
of that
brought
at
that up. I need to speak to that. So Fire District 2 has reserve funds. Fire District 2 is getting ready to make some investments into that facility. About a year ago, and I should just state, there's 9 people assigned to that building. It really wasn't intended for 9 people, but we're making it work. But we have a little overcrowding in the apparatus bay, and we don't have ideal accommodations for restroom facilities for the female employees that are assigned there. So we need to address that. So we're kind of looking at this twofold. Short term, what can we do? Because last year I met with a contractor and we did some preliminary investigation into what would it take to add on to the building to accommodate our apparatus-based space needs and our living quarter needs. And the preliminary reports I was getting, $3 million. And I thought, I don't know that I'd be a proponent of investing $3 million and putting all our eggs in one basket with the growth of the city. So I took a step back, met with chief officers, county officials, had a discussion, and met with Lane about growth of the city and which direction the city's going. So I came up with a plan that we own the property west of the fire station in the field there. We have for about 10 years talked about building a storage building over there that can house reserve apparatus, water rescue equipment, ATV, supplemental equipment that would free up space in our apparatus room that right now is fairly cluttered. And quite honest, it's becoming a little bit of a safety concern when crews have to navigate from one side of the building to the next to go on an emergency call, when they have to jockey around trailers and other things that are sandwiched in there because we have too much stuff. So I'm in the middle of working with Phelps Engineering on doing site development plan that will be coming to the city soon for a fire district to build a storage building on that property to the west. Well, that addresses the interior bay space limitations that we have. And I anticipate that's going to be a $250,000 to $300,000 project. We hope to start it in the fall. That doesn't really address the interior accommodations of the fire station. So with growth patterns of the city, we are having preliminary discussions with the fire district and county officials about, does it make sense to go invest funds in another location of the city and have two locations and run what we call a heavy, an engine or a ladder crew at both locations. It would require us to probably hire a few additional people, and then split some of the people out of the existing building. And we'd have two locations, and we could reduce response times to the northern, and I say northern, that's probably the longest response times right now. We could reduce those response times by doing that. And we would solve the overcrowding problem. And we could probably do this for the same amount of money that I'm being told would cost to add on and remodel that building. So it's something, it's not a done deal by any means, but it's something we are exploring. And I'm working closely with Mr. Massey to find out if some other things happen, that if this makes sense, the fire district will be taking a serious look at that and seeing that, does it make sense for us to go somewhere else and have a second location? Right now, it sounds like a logical solution to a problem we have. And the problem's not going to, you guys are going to continue to grow up there, and the call volume's going to get more, going to get greater and greater. So we think this is a solution, but we are continuing to investigate it.
My question is on the budget portion of that. Would that affect mill levies at all if you guys decide to invest the $3 million, or is that just specifically out of Fire District 2's reserve funds or whatever funding source you guys choose to use?
Fire District 2 has a strong reserve fund balance right now. This would probably be a 5-year plan. We'd probably wait and pay down some additional debt or wait till a bond issue falls off before we would do that. But we would also consider partnering with Johnson County MedAct and having a co-located facility that would reduce our expense.
Sounds like a plan.
Would it be more beneficial for the folks that are contracted now to be in the levy portion, or would it be more beneficial to stay contracted like it is as far as cost wise?
Well, I think the benefit to Fire District 2 is to have everybody in the fire district and eliminate the contract. Mm-hmm. The only thing, it's not equal now, the payment wise. When you're comparing general fund levies, what we're not talking about is the motor vehicle tax that comes with that. Fire District 2 is not getting that in contract. Yeah. We're simply getting the value times the assessed valuation times Fire District 2's general fund levy. If it were in the district, there would be some additional dollars with motor vehicle tax.
So Miami County would be kicking that back over?
Yeah, they would. The portion that's in Miami County would have to be kicking that over.
Okay.
And there are other fire districts in the state that straddle county lines, so that's not totally unusual. It would be new for us. We'd have to work through those details. But I know there's a process to do that.
I have a question. I was wondering why Fire District 1's building is sitting empty and why it was closed.
Fire District 1's building is,
That the one off 191st and Metcalf, 191st and Lackman?
no, so that's a Fire District 2 station.
Okay,
That station was closed when Overland Park Station 48 opened, a little bit north of that. That's when our transition plan came in. Overland Park built their new station, and it sat close enough to that station that we felt that both weren't needed. That's when Fire District 2 transitioned over and Overland Park began providing coverage to that central core of Fire District 2, east of Lackman Road. Johnson County owns that building now, and they intend to put, futuristically, when growth patterns warrant, they would move a future MEDAC transporting ambulance, in addition to what's here, into that building. That's the plan as I understand it today.
okay. That's good to know it's going to be used.
Yes.
Just sitting there. And the other question is, I think there's a lot of citizens of Spring Hill that don't really know which of those districts they're in. So if you can clarify that.
Yeah, and I can do that, and that is complicated. If they're in Johnson County and then they're in a new house, there's a high likelihood they're in Fire District 2. So that would be the, how are you referring to it? You would be the revenue neutral fire district area, I think, is what I'd have to look in both, see how you word that.
Is it fire and non-fire?
Non-fire.
Fire and non-fire.
Okay, so the fire is where, I assume where you collect your fire mill levy. The non-fire is in Fire District 2 territory. So let me go over the boundaries again.
Okay.
The contract area, which is the city fire area, goes from 207th Street to South Street, from Woodland to Lone Elm. And then anything within a Miami County address within the city is in the contract area. If you're outside of that, you're in the boundaries of Fire District 2, so that would be a city non-fire, if that makes sense. It is a little complicated. But if anybody has a question, give me their address and I'll tell you real quick on which one you're in.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Chief Francis? If not, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to the first of the two public hearings, the revenue neutral rate hearing for the fire district. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor.
Thank you.
And we'll officially open the public hearing at this time.
Yep.
I think I'm supposed
Go
to
ahead.
officially say that.
So you officially open, you don't have to vote or anything to do that? Okay. I'm going to be really brief. Tonight is the hearing. It's the time for the public to give you comments about their opinion on the proposed rate and the option of revenue neutral versus not revenue neutral. The end result tonight is you're going to vote on two resolutions, one for fire and one for non-fire. The only decision you will make tonight is whether or not we're going to exceed the revenue neutral rate. You are not going to approve a budget, and you're not going to approve a mill levy tonight. I know you all know that, but I just want to make sure the public knows that as well. The information I wanted to give to you tonight is I presented to you back, I think, on July 13th for the historic mill levy in the city, so that you have those facts in front of you tonight. And what we have proposed and was put in the paper there is a 41 mill levy in the fire area and a 28 even mill levy in the non-fire area. I'm going to leave this screen up and let you give this time to the public, and then I'll come back at the end.
All right, so we had two lists, one for the non-fire and one for the fire. No one signed up on the fire district, but we did have a lot of people sign up on the regular sheet for speaker sign up. but they all say revenue neutral rate. So if there's anyone in the fire district that would like to step up and say anything, now would be your time.
What if you don't know, even after that discussion?
I would say, in my opinion, you can step up and
Just pick
talk,
one.
talk at either one. Just pick one. We'll still take your comments to heart.
Will the vote occur after, for both,
Yes. Yeah, we'll vote at the end of each one.
after each?
I'll get it started.
After each hearing, yes.
Yes.
Bill Peterman, 19431 West 200th Street. I got a question on the other stuff there. You get the highest rates, rankings in the that you guys was talking about earlier because of raising taxes and paying bills on time. That's why you get the higher rates. Or ratings, I should say. And all I want to do on this is I just want to see who votes yes and no on the revenue neutral ratings, because elections are coming up, and I want to see what's right for the people. I know not everybody's running, but elections are coming up, and a lot of us aren't real happy with going the other way, because it's a lot cheaper. It saves us a lot of money to go with the way it has been forever. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else would like to step up, and if you could just make sure and state your name and your address, we would appreciate it.
My name's Walter Novak. I live in the Meadows at 21311 Noble Street. And I'm here today because I don't understand anything about fire districts. I understand a lot about bass fishing, and if you went with me, I'd talk about water clarity, lures for this time of the season, all that. And you would say, all I want to do is catch some fish.
It sounds like way more fun than taxes.
Yeah. And all I want to do is live in Spring Hill and be able to pay my taxes, and that's a problem right now for me. I hit a perfect storm, big increase in my valuation, and this mill rate, and I don't know if I'm fire or non-fire. I have 3 items on my list, Johnson Fire number 2. I have 3 items there. Does that tell you if I'm fire or non-fire?
So that should make you non-fire.
Non-fire, yeah. 'cause
Non-fire.
District 2.
So my house is on fire, nobody comes, right? Is that what non-fire? Okay. Oh, and I wanted to mention also, in 1999, I lost a 21-year-old son. My wife and I lost a son to suicide. It's a tough thing.
Sorry to hear that.
And so whatever we're discussing here and what people have, our faith got us through, prayers and a lot of love from everybody. And so sometimes it seems like yesterday still. Okay, taxes. I don't know about mill rates, and they don't bother me a whole lot. And the whole R&R thing to me is a farce. It's a statutory thing you have to do, and here we are. And it doesn't mean anything to me. What matters to me is checks I write. And we bought a brand new home in 2009 in the Meadows, in 2019 in the Meadows. My first full year of taxes, I paid $51.63. In 2021, I paid $52.11, a whole $47 increase. Thank you all very much. In 2022, I paid $53.72. That's where we are right now. Haven't made the second payment yet. And $161 increase. And then I got this document, which is also, you can work on this to make it useful for people. Okay, $796.92. That's 14.83%. And that is significantly outstrips even the crazy inflation we're living in right now. So it's kind of a hard thing for us. We're on a fixed income. I know how much money I have to work with next week, next month, month after, next January. Oh, well, maybe Uncle Sam will give us a raise in Social Security. You never know. But the fixed income, it's hard. I've already made adjustments to homeowners insurance and car insurance to take on more risk, to lower those rates about $600 to pay most of this $800 increase, which may not come to bear because I don't know what rate you're really going to set, which also makes this whole R&R thing kind of a stupid thing for me. So that's where I am. I'm not here to tell you how to run the city, although I don't understand what you're doing with the roads right now. I wouldn't tell Chief Henson over here how to run the police department. But I'm 76 years on the planet. I got a good idea what good policing looks like and bad policing looks like, and I've been the benefit of both. And but I wouldn't know how to run the police department on a day-to-day basis and what it takes. I don't know what it takes to run the city. I know what it takes to run my house. And you guys are making it difficult. The school district, you want 300 and some more dollars. That's a 34% increase just for the city portion of my tax. The school district, 230 wants $343, or a 13.96% increase. And they don't even do a really good job. If you look at test scores that came out of this high school right here in town. And they're available online, by the way. I'll give anybody a link that wants it. And then the county grabs another 200 or so, a little bit for the fire, a little bit for the parks, a little bit for this, a little bit for that, a couple $100. And so we all came through COVID. We all know we've all experienced all this inflation nonsense, but this is unsustainable for my family. And my family's only 2 of us right now. But I have, it's just difficult to plan and not know and to understand what's going on. And again, I wouldn't tell Chief Henson how to, oh, by the way, you guys do a good job. I wouldn't tell her how to run it, but I have a good idea if it's not going well. I don't know if it's going well here or not yet. I'm not paying that close attention to you guys. I'm not micromanaging you over your shoulders. I don't want to do that. Right? If I wanted to do that, I'd be sitting in well, I would try to be sitting in one of those chairs. But I'm 76 now, and I really kind of want to enjoy what God gives me left to enjoy. And this is unsustainable. If we run at this kind of a rate for a few more years, I'll be paying $1,000 a month in property tax for a 1,470 square foot ranch in the Garden City of America, right here, Spring Hill, where the weather's wonderful and everybody flocks to live here. This is just not sustainable for us. But I want it to be safe, so I want a good fire department. I want good water pressure. That's our actual dig at the water pressure over in my neighborhood. In case you didn't know. And we want good roads and all the good things that you're all responsible for. But you have a responsibility back to us to be courteous to us too and understand the issues that we have paying our bills. Right? That's it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Next. I've got the list. I could go ahead and read this and you could tell me whether you're on the first one or just step either one.
Hello, Gene Hermrich, 20690 West 220th Street. Lived in Spring Hill since 2007. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the council, Mr. Mayor, I stand before you to address a matter of great concern to all of us. And I think you can see by the audience today that it is a great concern. And that's exceeding the revenue neutral rate property tax increases based on the inflated market values of our homes. Our homes are more than just assets. They're where we build our lives, our families, and our dreams. However, the current proposal to exceed R&R threatens the affordability of our homes by tying tax increases to inflated market values. The principles of R&R is to adjust the tax rate so that the total revenue remains even when property values change. However, in a market where property values are skyrocketing, dismissing this principle leads to significant increases in individual property taxes. This is inherently flawed. It assumes that an increase in market value equates to an increase in the homeowner's ability to pay, but this is not always the case. Many homeowners, especially those on fixed incomes, as we just heard before, and those who have lived on their homes many years, may see their property values rise without a corresponding increase in their incomes. Personally, this year, my taxes will increase 21%. And as I mentioned, I bought my home in 2007 and have been fortunate enough to stay there. This year, this new increase will put that tax at 72% premium on top of my principal and interest payment. So I am paying 72 cents on the dollar to live here. Moreover, there are concerns about how these funds are being used. We must ensure that our hard-earned tax dollars are being put to good use and not wasted on unnecessary expenditures. We need transparency and accountability in how our tax dollars are spent. Another area of concern is the rapid expansion of our school district. While education is undoubtedly important, we must also consider whether this expansion is providing a return on investment for all citizens. Are we seeing improvements in educational outcomes commensurate with the increased spending? Are all residents benefiting from this expansion, or only a select few? Another issue that has come to light is the expanding city limits. This expansion increases overall expenses without providing any overall benefit to the citizens. It leads to higher maintenance costs for infrastructure and public services without necessarily improving the quality of life for residents. In addition, we cannot ignore the historical inflation and looming fears of a recession. These economic factors can further strain homeowners who are already struggling with increased property taxes. Inflation erodes purchasing power, making it even harder for homeowners to meet their financial obligations. A potential recession could lead to further job loss and reduced incomes, exacerbating the problem. We need a system that is fair and equitable, one that takes into consideration the homeowner's ability to pay. We need a system that our most vulnerable citizens are being protected, as they are currently being priced out of their homes due to inflated market values. Let us challenge this system. Let us work together to find a solution that ensures our tax system is fairness and affordability. Let us ensure that our homes remain our sanctuaries and not financial burdens. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Larry Taylor. My address is 21615 Summer Street, Spring Hill, Kansas. I'll keep it brief. It was my understanding that we were here to discuss revenue neutral rate affecting the real estate property taxes levied by Johnson County and the city of Spring Hill, Kansas. But on August 21st, 2023, the county commissioners voted to approve increasing taxes exceeding the revenue neutral rate defined by HB 2239. Johnson County Commissioners voted 5-2 to exceed the revenue neutral rate in the last minutes of the public hearing on August 21st, despite opinion and opposition to the rate increase. It is my opinion that they had already made up their minds to increase the rate despite public opposition, and that the furtherance of conducting the public forum was just formality. A requirement outlined in HB 2239. But their early vote demonstrates that they had no intention to stand within the revenue neutral rate. The Johnson County Commissioners apparently adhered with the compliance of the law, but they certainly did not embrace the spirit of the law in favor of their own agenda. It is my opinion that the revenues generated by increased property values within Spring Hill and other cities within Johnson County would generate enough increased tax revenue that violating the revenue neutral rate is unnecessary. We are retired and living only on retirement income. Our real estate taxes for 22 figured annually are now $434.06 a month. With the proposal, or should I say approved, real estate property taxes will be $489.56 a month. This is a bill, a debt, cannot be reduced or paid off. This, along with future planned increases, are going to drive my wife and I out of the state of Kansas, as will other retirees in our state. The Johnson County Commissioners had their vote, as will the City Council of Spring Hill. The populace will have their vote too, remembering their pleas were ignored. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, I've got a couple more on this list, but I don't know if you're which fire district you're in. I've got Mrs. Debbie Dominic and Josh McLennan. So,
Yeah, I'm on one of them.
all right.
Good afternoon.
I'm Josh McLennan. I live on 220th, or 20450 West 220th Street, down the road from the gentleman that spoke earlier. I'm here to talk tonight. I came last year. We had a very similar conversation as this. We had folks get up and give their opinion, and the council still in the end voted to increase mill levy. Some of the items that folks brought up before is the piece of paper that we got mailed the other day. There's a lot of confusion on there. I'm an engineer. I work with a lot of numbers. This is the worst, that'd be the worst spreadsheet I would ever send to my customer or internally to another one of my engineers. It may not be you guys. I'm just saying. It's
It does come
difficult.
from the county.
From the county.
We didn't send it out, the county does.
I think it's actually the state
Oh,
that
state, I'm sorry.
regulates how it's done. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's-
it is.
It's
It is
awful.
odd.
Okay.
It's awful.
So I got a position at the state level, okay. Audits, no recommendations again this year. I believe a question was asked, the same question as last year, is to clarify that that's the highest rating on an audit, and of course, yeah, it was. I've worked in industries where we had the FAA, I've worked under the FDA, and then the Pentagon, who would come in and audit our facilities. We'd make components that go up in airplanes, or we'd make stuff that go in hospitals. We would typically, hopefully we never got major findings, but we never had no recommendations, ever, on an audit for our process controls, our financial controls, and our quality controls. Never have we ever had no recommendations. Talk a little bit, the fire chief came up and spoke. He did make a point, the fire department mill levy has gone down, but as we know, our property appraisals have skyrocketed. So it's gone up. It's not gone down. He wanted to add another station, but as he stated earlier, the current station doesn't have accommodations for ladies' bathrooms, which I feel would violate many OSHA laws and federal laws, state laws. But he said nothing. He talked about getting another building, but he didn't say anything about remodeling the current building to add accommodations for the ladies. So is he planning not to address that, or what's gonna happen there? Also, we talked a little bit on the schooling. Obviously, taxes also go up, our property taxes, as far as what's going in the USD 230. I don't know how many folks have been in Spring Hill Elementary recently. One of my first graders came home earlier this week, and he said it was hot today. AC was broken in their classroom. My third grader the other day said it was hot in his pod. Oh, the AC was broken in their pod. There's been counts of molds and ceilings, classrooms that smell, and overcrowded classrooms where a janitor closet is a literal closet because they have to accommodate a janitor office for another classroom. Where we have schools that are not sitting at near full capacity within the district. So as the other folks said tonight, on how to pay for that financials, as we all know, inflation has gone up. It's affected everyone here, it's affected everyone in the council. I'm sure everyone's been pinched in some way or shape or form. But continuing to abuse citizens that go beyond what we are already paying for gas, groceries, utilities. Let's keep what's in best for the community and for your fellow neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Think I'm on fire, Chip?
I think we're fire.
No, that should be non-fire.
You guys are not fire.
No fire, new resident, yes.
Woodland should be non-fire.
Not fire.
Okay. And then that's it we have on that list. I do have Mr. Aravallo on here, but I believe you're non-fire as well. So if there's anyone else in the fire district that'd like to step up, now would be your time.
Hi, my name is Sally Lundy. My address is 19716 Norton Street. I am not a retired individual. I am a working person, but I am also not only the breadwinner of my family, but I am the caregiver for a disabled husband and an elderly mother that live with me. My salary has gone up 2% in the last 2 years, 2%. But my, my gas, my electric, gasoline, water, food, all of those things have gone up far more than 2%. And my mortgage has gone up several $100s in the 5 years that I've lived here, several $100s every month due to increases in evaluations and taxes, increases in mill levies. So while we all want good roads and adequate services for the city that we live in, I am concerned regarding the increased requests for mill levy increases that are affecting my family. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, next in the public hearing, we'll consider resolution number 2023-R-20 to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate. And just any discussion from the governing body on that. I'll start out on this. I do want to make one clarification. The mill levy was actually lowered last year, Spring Hill's mill levy. Now, your property valuations did go up, so ultimately your payments went up, but the city of Spring Hill actually lowered our mill levy. So I just wanted to clarify that we did not raise the mill levy last year. It actually lowered from 36.288 to 35.993. Now, as you all know, everything else went up and valuations went up by, I believe, 20% last year. So overall prices went up by a lot and mortgages went up, including my own. So yes, very much so. I wanted to start out, and this may be an unpopular opinion even amongst some of my own staff. But I don't live in a fancy subdivision. I live here in the older part of town. I built my house 19 years ago here. I own a small company here in town, and so this does affect my family. Taxes affect my family. My mortgage went up by several $100s last year, and it will go up again if taxes are raised. So this hits home for me as well. I'm a conservative, and I'm never a fan of raising taxes. I see the need. I've sat in so many meetings with staff, so I see the need of things that need our funds, like one of the big things, some of the road projects and things. So there's plenty of need, but I am not a big fan of raising taxes to fix that need. I feel like there's some other ways, either there's some projects that we're just not going to be able to do right now, or some other ways to come up with revenue. So like I say, I know that's going to not be a popular opinion with some of my staff members, but I just wanted to say my 2 cents that I do hear you citizens. I think we all do up here. I think every one of us up here at some point has said none of us want to raise taxes. Some of us do see the need for the funding because there are a lot of things that need to be funded. And we do want to be good stewards of what, the citizens have provided as far as taxes. So with that, I'll open it up to anybody else in the governing body that would like to give their 2 cents.
I think it's important to clarify exactly what exceeding the revenue neutral rate is, okay? What we have right now is we have 36, well, it's moved off of the screen right now, it's 35 point something.
993.
993.
And the other one was 22.
22,887.
Right, okay.
There you go. Thank you.
That is what the mill levy rate is right now. And because we talked about that, because the Johnson County and other entities that are taxing entities have risen our home values the way they're assessed, even though it's at that tax rate, the city's receiving more by keeping it at that same consistent mill levy rate, a 35.993 for the fire contract and 22.887 of the non-fire. They are receiving more money, and so we have to declare that we're exceeding the neutral revenue rate because we're getting more taxes only because our houses have all been assessed more. For instance, cities like Merriam and Lenexa are actually decreasing their mill levies, but they're still having to say they're exceeding the revenue neutral rate because by law, it's a fact that we're exceeding it. But even if it's exceeding the revenue neutral rate, we still get to set the mill levy. So I do not support raising the mill levy.
And I do want to clarify is today we are not setting the mill levy. I know a lot of people think that we're making that decision today, and that's not being made today. This is just a discussion about it.
I don't understand why it's not included in this meeting. I wish that legally I could understand why we don't get to set the mill levy rate. Because the word exceeding makes it sound like we're raising the mill levy if we're not ones that want to support that. So when you hear exceeding, that doesn't mean that we're raising your mill levy rate.
It's because R&R talks about dollars, not mill levies.
Yeah.
Right.
We budget
It's a different
dollars.
comparison.
It's confusing when
It
the
is very
public hears that, and I just want to clarify too, I took the time to look at what Fairway did. They're at 19, and they're staying steady on their mill levy rate. Leewood's at 24, they're reducing it to 23.5. Lenexa's at 28.1 mils, they're reducing it to 27.3. Merriam is at a mill levy of 27.6. They're lowering it to 27.4. Mission is debating it still. They're only at 16 mils, which they're thinking of lowering it and not raising it to 18. Mission Hills is at 22.7. They're keeping it the same on their mill levy. Overland Park's only at 14.5. They're keeping it the same. Prairie Village is at 18.3. They're holding steady. Roland Park's at 27.6, they're lowering it to 26. Olathe is at 24.4, and they are barely lowering theirs 0.230, so it'll be 24.358. But even with decreasing their mill levy, they are paying 9% more because of what their homes are assessed by Johnson County.
So none of the ones that you listed off are revenue neutral.
None of them are revenue neutral.
So even
Only
lowering the mill
because-
levy, they're not revenue neutral.
And I think that's what's so hard for people to understand is we could lower the mill levy and still not be revenue neutral.
For us to be revenue neutral, we would have to lower our mill levy almost 5.4 and 3.7
Yeah.
in each one.
So if we stay consistent at the mill levy, which is 35.993, and we stay consistent at 22.887, we'll still be having to declare legally that we're exceeding the revenue neutral rate. So that's where the confusion comes in.
Another piece of saying that we're gonna be revenue neutral puts us in a bind at the end of the year if we do collect more than what the revenue neutral is, but we are subject to penalties and things like that, aren't we, if we?
Yeah, it's if the valuations change
Yeah.
between the estimates that we get in June and when they're finalized in the fall. If it were to change in the wrong direction to where we collected more, then
Yeah.
yes, you would have to pay it back.
So that's where there's another kind of the downside to saying you want to stay revenue neutral. I'm on the same page as Wendy. I know things have increased in cost. I think if we can keep the mill levy the same or decrease it a little bit, that would be reasonable in my mind as a citizen. I know it's tough because it would still be an increase depending on what your increase is on your tax valuation is. But that's still, in my mind, that's still fair as far as that goes. We have inherited some new things that don't necessarily have new properties. So we do have some more maintenance levels. The cost of, our insurance went up, the cost of everything else that we have
Everything,
also
yeah.
included. So it is tough to say, hey, dropping it 5.5 mils would be sustainable. I don't think that's necessarily sustainable to run the city. And so revenue neutral, I think I would be, yes, it's gonna exceed revenue neutral, but I think the overall proposed increase to the mills is not something that I'm comfortable with at all, so.
Hopefully this doesn't muddy everything, but I'll do another clarification. So Rhonda, please listen closely, make sure I'm saying this right. To be revenue neutral, we would have to, again, we budget off of dollars. So we say, let's say we want to, last year we ran the city for $1 million. To be revenue neutral, we would have to say we're gonna run the city again this year for $1 million. And that is revenue neutral. So I understand that there's no way we can run the city with more people, more citizens, more needs, inflation, higher cost of everything. There's no way we can run the city again in '24 for the same dollars that we ran the city last year. That's what revenue neutral means. Is that correct, Rhonda?
And there's virtually
So-
no city out there that can't.
Right, that's in my personal opinion, that is virtually impossible. We can't be revenue neutral. I agree with a lot of the folks out there that came up here and said this is silly. I agree. I think it's silly. This is a process that the state put in place. I don't know what the intentions were. I'm guessing it's to keep big government in check, to make sure that it's all on the table, and it had maybe a good intent, just if you look across the state at all the different entities, there is almost no one. We did it here once, and that was during COVID, and I commented on that a couple meetings ago, or maybe it was last meeting, that, you know, during COVID would have been a great time to do that. We're past that point, and unfortunately now we're seeing the reaction from that. So again, to be revenue neutral is almost impossible. I'm not saying people aren't out there doing it, but it's almost impossible. And if you look at all the entities in the state of Kansas, you're gonna find very, very few that are actually revenue neutral. So this process, I agree with some of you out there, is silly and a little just procedural. But in my opinion, there's no way we can be revenue neutral. So this vote to say we're going to exceed the revenue neutral rate, it's kind of inevitable, in my opinion.
And once again, it's not a vote saying we're gonna raise the mill levy.
Again, we budget on dollars, not mills, because there's a lot of unknowns that we don't have until the fall. But for whatever reason, we have to do this now in August. So, I don't know if that helped clarify anything. It was an attempt, so hopefully that made a little bit of sense.
He's got a question back there.
Can you go ahead and step up here, just so everybody in the public can hear you?
Can't hear you if they're.
Yeah, if it's not on the microphone, the people watching online can't hear you.
Oh, I can yell. So if it's based on dollars, why isn't that something that's put on the screen? Why are we talking about a proposed rate of 2024 of 41 mils, when if it's all about dollars, show the dollars? Thank you.
Rhonda, do you know off the top of your head how much a mill is currently? I had that written down. I think it's like 160, 160 something.
That's correct. In the 2024 budget, a mill is worth 168,000.
That's what I thought, somewhere.
Seven something, I believe.
Come on.
168,000 approximately per mill.
In the end, also, the reporting requirement for R&R is in mills, just so you know. But the point of it is to give your taxing entity the exact same dollars. So set a mill levy rate with a new valuation that creates the same amount of dollars. But everything is reported in mills.
And once again, this is not a case of not trying to be transparent. This is how the state requires us to do it.
We're following the process that was requested of the city,
Yes.
the state, sorry.
The state, yeah.
So how do you figure, let's say that there were 100 new homes built in the city. How does that get figured into the R&R? Because there will be additional revenue even if you didn't change the mill rate. If you said we need $1 million, we raise $1 million, but we have 100 new homes, that might be another
So you'd have. to lower-
500,000 in
Your
income.
mill levy rate
50.
would have to go down in order to accommodate those 100 new homes.
So that's why it's such a big
If-
drop, because if
Wait
we
a
were
minute.
taking the same amount of dollars with the new homes, we're gonna have the same budget as last year, but we're gonna have all this extra homes, land area.
So
So what day do they stop counting old and new stuff so that,
I'll be happy to answer that for you. The way that it gets calculated in is the county is required by law to give us the valuation by June the 15th.
Yep.
And so it's set on June the 15th, and that's the number I used to calculate in the budget. So we went from about $149,000 per mill to about 167. Some of that is because of those 100 new homes that you mentioned, in addition to the ups and downs of valuation
of existing property.
on existing property,
Right.
yes.
By the way, I think most everybody understands that we don't stay static. If you're an employee of the city, you'd like to get an increase, right? I mean, once in a while. Things like that have to happen. And like I mentioned when I was saying, there's a responsibility, I have to pay taxes, but you have a responsibility back to us to manage this thing
Right.
well. Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I have not made any decisions on where, or any final decisions on where the final mill levy will end up. And we've said a couple of times that we're not deciding that tonight. So I don't know where I'm gonna land on that yet. I do know that revenue neutral is not really feasible for us at all. Kind of like how Chad said, which is essentially why we're here doing this process tonight, because that is the process. Passing these resolutions does not obligate us to any mill levy of any kind, other than we can't go above the cap. We can come in anywhere below that, including revenue neutral. But I don't think we're headed in that direction, revenue neutral. I agree with a lot of what we've heard here tonight from up here and from the audience. The two factors that affect how much we bring in dollars are property valuation and the mill levy. We only control one of those. So in order to accommodate, we have to, try and thread the needle, so to speak. So, I haven't made any final decisions on where the budget's gonna be, but tonight, procedurally, we need to do this, if for nothing else, to give us all of the options available to us when we do make that decision in next month, so.
Yeah, and the weird thing about the proposed is, that's a quirk in the rules for the R&R too, is that you have to propose a cap, which that doesn't really necessarily mean anything except for, that's the wiggle room we gave ourselves for budgetary needs. That was something we talked about in length a couple weeks ago or a month ago, whatever it was. And there was varying opinions on that at the time too. So I think we settled on where they're at now as far as a cap goes. I think there's a couple of us that aren't comfortable with anywhere close to that. There's a couple that are, so it's a matter of, I would say, referencing that too in some of your comments, if there's any more comments in the next go around to, that would be something to talk about too. 'Cause that's not a fixed number, sorry. Good job.
I should have asked for this in advance because it might not be something we have right off the cuff, but I would be curious to know what we set our cap at. I'd have to go back and look what we set our cap at last year versus what we actually came in at.
36 and a half.
36 and 23.
Yeah, it was,
But this
The cap is not up there.
that's why I'm curious. So
Yeah.
I wonder what the cap was that
was
was,
like
decided.
They're correct.
yeah.
36 and 23, I remember.
So we got close to our cap
Okay.
last year, and that's one reason I wanted to keep the cap down this year,
Gotcha.
so.
That's one reason I wanted to keep not adding anything onto the mill levy, because as you said, there are more new homes, which bring in more revenue. The assessments from Johnson County is why we have to say that it is exceeding it, because there is more revenue that is coming into the city. There's needs that are needed in the city, especially with the police department. Because right now, I don't know if any of you know, a starting officer for Spring Hill is only being paid $23 an hour. Gardner and Johnson County are getting 28. The school crossing guard is getting 18 an hour when they hire him. I think that our police officers starting deserve more than $23 an hour, and that we should be able to raise that to 28. That's where some of the extra costs are going to come in, because as our city grows, we need to have enough police officers. And I wish that we didn't have to put that cap on there, proposed with also the wording exceeding the mill levy, because it isn't accurate. So we're just going to have to figure out what capital improvement programs we don't want. And where do we, as the citizens, want our tax dollars used? Do we want to be frugal with 2024 around the corner? That's why all the other cities are being more frugal and not raising their mill levies, because we don't know what's going to happen in 2024. So I got a letter from a retired woman that's lived here 33 years in Spring Hill. She was on boards for the community. She volunteered. She put a lot of investment and time and effort into the city, and she can't pay for her oxygen right now. And using the food pantry, that is a benefit in the city. So I do hear the voice of Spring Hill. And I think we do need to rein ourselves in during this year and have patience and wait till 2025 and then put millions of dollars into these capital improvements and make developers responsible for putting sidewalks in. Because one of the recent developers, ARG, that's going in off 251st and Lone Elm, has in their plans they're doing sidewalks, and developers should do the sidewalks. So we need help with the infrastructure in Spring Hill. And we need to work together and be involved with the school district. You need to attend the meetings and rein them in, because Forest Springs is half full and we're paying for administration. And that should have been put on hold, in my opinion. So that's how I feel about it.
Any other comments? I did want to speak to one of the best ways to bring in revenue, which I know most of you already know this, is to bring in development, and especially commercial development and sales tax. And so I do know we have departments in the city, community development department, and all of us really try to chip in and we're trying to get that, 'cause we know that's something our citizens want, especially when it comes to restaurants and places to shop and things like that. And that will all help lower the burden of taxes on our citizens. So that is something we are working very hard on doing. I mean, a simple example is Quick Trip. I mean, that brings in a lot of tax revenue, and it's also a big benefit to community. So that is something the community development department and all the staff are working real hard to try to help bring into town. But you also gotta, I hear the comments sometimes, and I'm sure we've all seen it sometimes, well, why doesn't the city let this person come in? Or why doesn't the city let this person come in? We don't turn away anybody. We want people to come in. It's not us not letting them. They have to want to come here. They have to want to come here, and there has to be a reason for them to come here. And a lot of I know I've said this before, but a lot of the fast food places and things like that, they look strictly at a population. And most of them won't touch a town that's under 10,000 people. So until that's kind of the cutoff they look at it. Once it reaches 10,000 people, then they consider bringing that business into that town, because that's their business model and whether it can be sustainable or not. So some of those things that some people don't know behind the scenes go on. We want lots of stuff to come to town. We want lots of business things that will benefit our citizens, like fast food restaurants and other places that, families can enjoy throughout town. And that all those things will help lower the tax burden on all of our citizens and help be able to fund road projects and all different things throughout the city that need improvement. Mainly infrastructure, but there's lots of other things as well. I mean, trails, parks, lots of different things. So, any other comments, questions from anyone up here?
Yeah, I'd just say, thanks everyone for coming out and voicing your opinion. This is how the system's supposed to work. I think that the intent was to be transparent with how the city is spending their money. And so, look, appraisal values have gone way up. My house went up 11.5% last year. So that, that affects everyone. So I'm sensitive to that. I've got emails from everyone, from other citizens as well. Neighbors talk to me. So I think this is a good thing to have this conversation. I think a bunch of good points have been made, and generally speaking, I think, the revenue neutral rate is well intended. I think in this situation, it's unrealistic, so.
And I want to echo what Mr. Van Houten said. We try to be as transparent as we can up here, and when you have something like this, a revenue neutral rate that's very confusing, it makes it seem hard to be transparent because people don't understand it. Some of us didn't even understand parts of it, a couple years ago. So it's kind of confusing, and so we try to do the best we can with what we're required to do. So. Any other comments, questions on that? If not, Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll call? Oh, go ahead.
Need a motion.
Motion, I entertain a motion.
Before you move,
Need to close the hearing.
you need to close your public hearing.
No.
Right?
I think it's before. I think it's before and then you close it afterwards, I believe.
Are you reading something else? I mean, you're the attorney.
No, that's, yeah.
This is the way we did
Yeah,
it
we'll follow
last
our
year.
agenda set up, so make sure you close after we move, or after the vote.
Okay, I say that's my notes I have, but if it needs to be different.
Just want to make sure.
All right, with that, I entertain a motion.
Looking for that motion. Somebody has it, go for it, because I don't have it.
Numbers on there. I can do it.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 2023-R-20 to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate
In the fire district area.
in the Spring Hill Fire District.
Second?
I've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mr. Peel,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. North,
Yes.
Mr. Van Houten,
Yes.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes.
Mayor Berkey.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-R-20 passes 6-0.
Thank you very much. At this point, we will close the public hearing for the fire district and we will open the revenue neutral rate hearing for the non-fire district. Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor again.
I'm going to go back to the historic mill levy because non-fire is on here as well, and I leave it the floor to the citizens.
All right, first person we have on the list is Mr. Rodolfo.
Did you open the public hearing?
Yeah, you did.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know that we did.
I
Yeah, he
did.
did.
I said I closed the one and opened the other one.
First thing you did.
Rodolfo
Speak a
Arevalo.
little fast sometimes.
I live at 19419 West 200th Street. And I get the feeling that whatever I say doesn't mean anything, but I'll go ahead because I know how you're going to vote. I'm gonna skip around a little bit since other speakers have mentioned some of the things I was going to do. But I would just go back and, since this chart is up, that for you to understand that if you were to stay revenue neutral, the mill levy would be 18.34. So by suggesting or proposing 28, you're really wanting to raise the mill levy by 10 mills.
That's not correct.
Not 5.
not
Yes, it is.
That is
Yes, it
not
is.
correct.
Oh, it's not?
No, our mill levy rates last year were
No.
35.99.
If you were to go
35.
listen to what I'm saying, Mr. Peel.
2.887.
No, listen, Mr. Peel.
Rate.
Can we interrupt
I
you?
guess.
Are you gonna allow that?
Are you gonna let me talk or are you gonna interject in between?
Go ahead.
Jesus. Nothing like being transparent. At any rate, that's really what you're doing. So what Ms. North is suggesting is somewhere in between. And I think the 22.8 is closer to what the citizens would want. Ideally, what I would want would be less than that. Because in addition to the information you received last time you had a meeting, your budget director also indicated that she estimated that you would, at the end of the year, would have $1.2 million to roll over to next year, which basically means that you did not use all the money you collected. 1.8 million at 1 mil being 164,000 or something is equivalent to almost 6 mils. Maybe more. So why are we piddling with asking to raise something to 28 or consider it. The reason I say that also is that it's very obvious that the proposed that you indicate up there, just like you did last year, you always come very close to what you propose. So, so it leads me to believe that the way the budget is developed is based on what you propose you may want to go to. So my other suggestion would be is that you indicate to the budget director not to bother to look at the proposed, but simply build the budget on what you feel you need, rather than where you want to go. I'm an accountant also, along with being a university administrator for 46 years. So I know how to build the budget backwards rather than forwards. If you tell me you want $5 million, I'll create you a budget that spends $5 million. Okay? In addition to that, I would remind you that according to Johnson County, property values went up 12%. If you can't live with 12% increase, then why are we piddling around with this? Again, I'll reference Ms. North again. She mentioned what the mill levies are in a number of cities. DeSoto is 20.9, Lenexa 28.2, Olathe 24.4, OP is 14.5, Gardner is 18.6 for last year. This year, Spring Hill was 35.9 compared to them. Why?
What are the valuations of those towns? Mr. Arvalo, I have a question for you.
As long as you're not argumentative.
Yeah, hey.
I just have a question.
Councilman Field, so we're gonna have a one-way stream, and if there's comments, we'll address that in you guys' comments. But yeah, we'd like to keep this as a
Never mind.
public comment.
Yeah, thank you. The next one on the list, I believe, is Mrs. Debbie Dominic. And then if there's anyone else in the non-fire district that would like to speak after her, that's all we have signed up, I believe.
Hi,
Hey, Debbie.
Debbie Dominic, 19299 West 209th Street, Spring Hill, Kansas, 66083. I'm in Woodland Ridge. And you guys have heard everything tonight, and I guess I don't quite understand how, I'm trying to listen and figure out, the approving or passing this resolution and stuff, but I guess I would just kind of echo what most of them had said. One of my other concerns is with needs versus wants. When my husband and I were first married, we were broke, but we'd like to go out to restaurants sometimes and pretend like we're rich. And we would take a credit card and maybe spend $250 or $300 pretending we were rich. Did we need to? No. Did we have the money to do it? No. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. I mean, we'd have, mussels and shrimp and lobster and wine and, everything on the menu. Nothing was was off the table. But, so I guess that's what I want to ask or talk to you guys about too. Because what it seems to me like we are asking for money for things that we don't need in a time when a lot of people are really in a place where they don't have the budgets to do things that they need. It feels like these are a lot of wants, and I almost feel like there's a cart before the horse. Because a lot of this goes to the CIP, which hasn't been approved. Is that correct?
Well, it's approved annually.
That's correct. Yes.
It has not been approved.
Correct.
Okay, so it's almost like we're saying, somebody else had made the mention, maybe it was Mr. Arvelo, that, it's like asking, it's like a kid at Christmas, right? My kids would say, I want a DS. Well, that's awesome. Santa doesn't build DSs, or we can't afford a DS this year. Well, I'll ask Santa. Well, Santa doesn't live in Spring Hill. We can't necessarily go around paying for things that we can't afford. And so I feel like even with this increase that we've had, our taxes have gone up to, I don't know how to read it all. It looks like a lot. Thankful, I don't do our finances because I'm the type that's like, if I see $300, we spend $310. So my husband handles all that, but I know it went up. And I just feel like since our property values have also increased, and that was one thing he did tell me, was that, you know, we've had this assessment, which could be nice because if we go to sell our house, that just shows that, you know, our property is worth more. But again, our taxes are already increasing based on that. So my other thing that I wanted to point out was these new homes. I mean, you guys know I'm on the planning commission, and Mayor, I think you said everybody wants fast food. I don't. I'm so against growth in Spring Hill, and I'm not trying to be a fuddy-duddy. I just love our small town. I don't want McDonald's and Walmart and 40 other fast food restaurants. I want Spring Hill to be Spring Hill, but whatever. Representing my pie, because I know there's people who think like me as well. But we have approved several thousand homes over the time that I have sat on the planning commission to be built. They're gonna have tax dollars too, correct? Okay. So again, that money is it should be the money that we're looking for and not asking our already overtaxed current citizens to start putting money into things. The other thing too, I don't know if you guys have paid much attention, but the sidewalks, I agree, developers should do. It sat on the budget years and years and years. $100,000 is always listed as the yearly budget for sidewalks, yet it's never spent. So where's that money? So we're budgeting for things and then we don't spend the money on them, and then we're asking for more money. So again, I would just ask that you guys really consider that. Definitely not increase the mill levy. I would like to see it go down. I realize that regardless, our taxes are going up, but I think to further increase it would really be damaging to our citizens. I don't want to move, but you know, when I was talking with my husband about this, he's like, we should move somewhere where they're not building extra stuff because he's tired of our taxes going up too. And I think that you're going to see that from other citizens as well. So this is a great town to live in. It's been a great town to raise my kids in. They're all gone, by the way, and I'm excited because like my grocery bill has gone down tremendously, but now it's going to go to taxes. So help me get the things I want. Let me be able to go out to eat and not just have to pretend I'm rich. But also again, let's keep a cap on it. Spring Hill's not a rich town. It's just not, and it's fine that way. We all love it. So let's not go out there and pretend like we're rich and spend a bunch of money that we don't have, and that it's going to be really difficult for our citizens to have to come up with every year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I did want to speak to something real quick, has nothing really to do with taxes, but on the sidewalk thing you were talking about, I actually did just talk with my staff about within the last week, and we are going to be spending the money on sidewalks. That's something that should have been done all along, and that's something that will not be left behind anymore. So anyways, just want to speak to that real quick because I had it on my mind. Sure, go ahead.
Hello guys, my name is Mary Dobson. I'm at 20691 West 220th Street. Just to make it clear, we did table the discussion and everything for the CIP until next month, till after this meeting was done. In reference to the development, we do require the development and the developers to place the sidewalks in. The city has portions of it, but not all of it. So we do look at it and see where they're needed, whether it's on a corner or how, Main Street. So those developers are responsible for putting in sidewalks. So where I disagreed was like the older part of the town, where we don't have sidewalks, where there's no development coming in, we need to up, the allowance or whatever you want to call it to add to the 100,000. That it correct is never spent on it, but So I just want the public to be aware that we do require the developers to put sidewalks in, so it's not a burden of the, the entire city for all of the new houses, developments, and everything like that coming in. So, that's all I'm ready.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to step up and speak on that? If not, I'll go ahead and open up to comments or questions up here. I know we've kind of talked about it already, but if there are any other further comments on any of it.
I agree with you, Mary. I've thought a lot about the sidewalks needing to be in this older part of Spring Hill because that's where I'm living right now. And where a lot of the school students have to walk up 215th South Street where the crosswalk is. It's, just the old neighborhood that has no sidewalk, so they're having to walk way into the yards or on the road. I don't know the name of the other road. I didn't have time to look, that goes up to the elementary school, which is a main road. And I think that would help having sidewalks there, and also Webster. That if Webster, some of their sidewalks are not very good condition, it goes to a lot of the businesses. And if we could connect up on 215th South Street with sidewalks, like we want to bring the outer parts of the city into the main downtown area with businesses, the school already has sidewalks once you get across Webster Street to get down to the main street that goes to Pops and some of those. So I think that's a really good idea for the city to use the money rather than on the capital improvement plans that were started to be slated, one in particular on 199th from Ridgeview to Renner Road. I just don't think that's a priority that the citizens want. I think they'd rather wait and see what happens in 2024 and put some of these smaller projects that are doable, like the $100,000 in sidewalks. I think I remember hearing on that capital improvement plan that it would include curbs and sidewalks there from Ridgeview to Renner, and that doesn't seem like that's making a developer that could come in down the road have to do sidewalks, which I don't agree with that. And I just feel that because the city has been frugal with the money that we did get, there was a lot of improvements this year with having the mill levy at 35.993 and 22.887. We did come in under that, which we do have a rollover, which is helping the city be more financial with whatever it was, 1 million or whatever, which will help compensate for some of the rise in costs of anything that the city has to do to fix or maintain things or raise the salary of the police to be right in there with the other cities. I think that could be taken care of by keeping the mill levy at what it is right now and not raising it, where we'd still be able to do the things that we need with the cost increases of the city and be conservative with it and not put more higher burdens. That's why I really hate seeing that proposed thing up there of 5 extra mill levies and that we have to declare that we're going to exceed it because the city will bring in more than what we set the mill levy at. Otherwise, every single person would have to get, whether it's $100 check or 50 or whatever it would be, 25, it would have to be returned to every single person, and there would be nothing in savings, and that would be costly to the city and cost us more. So I just think we need to be really frugal and rein the city in like what the citizens want. And that was pretty close estimate, I think, last year, with having the mill levy at 35, which is a lot lower than 2019. But our problem with the city is we're a neighborhood community. And so unfortunately, all of us as taxpayers are having to pay the highest mill levies of anybody in Johnson County right now. And we're at a point, being the fastest growing at 8,000 population, that there are other entities that are coming to our city that would relieve the tax burden for us by having additional businesses like Quick Trip and stuff come in. And the only reason they came in was we're at that point of population right now that if we get more entities to come in, then our taxes will go down. That's why Overland Park is at 14, because they have tons of establishments that help pay that tax.
And that's what I was gonna speak to earlier. All those cities that you were mentioning, the reason why their mill levies are as low as they are is because of all the sales tax revenue that they bring in.
Yeah.
And they all have different mill values as well.
Mhm.
So it's hard, it's not a straight across the board apples. It's not a straight across the board apples to apples comparison when their value of one mill is different for every single entity. So it's-
Wouldn't
it's
they
difficult.
also be closer to our non-fire, cause wouldn't they be using Johnson County's
Mhm.
fire, so.
Good point.
Our non-fire rate is probably what's more indicative, more apples to apples.
They're still gonna have a different value, but
Yeah, to their mill, but.
yeah.
And I did want to speak to something else you said, Mrs. North. We were able to accomplish a lot this year with the taxes that we did have. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have driven down Lone Elm Street recently, but that got completely repaved and striped. And I know one of the big problem childs in town is the Woodland Street. There's several others, but Woodland is horrendous, and we are all very well aware that it's horrendous. And we do plan on before the end of the year, hopefully redoing that one as well. So that has been in discussion for a long time and has been in the plan and in the works for a long time, but there was just some things that needed to happen before we could do that. So we are trying to maximize everything we can out of every dollar, and I feel like this year with all the different road improvements that we've done around and the rest of them that we plan on doing the rest of the year, we are doing our best to maximize each dollar. And there's several other areas. South Victory is going to be worked on as well. Lincoln Street's going to be worked on. So we have multiple other street projects still yet to get done this year. So
I will say I've gone through the proposed budget that I've seen so far, and Rhonda did do a really good job of trying to fit everything into our current mill levy. And she even did a lot of cuts through different departments to get there. So just straight cost increase was seen in that. It was a tough job, but she still did it. There's probably still room to work, but really keeping the mill levy where it's at is probably fair as far as the budget goes. We're always going to have a little bit of hopefully a cushion left over like we did last year and this year, just because we're going to have turnover, you're going to have things like that, and that's where you save a little bit of money when it comes to salaries and benefits. But again, yeah, I agree. That's one reason I kind of didn't want to really set the cap as high as we did, because last year we did come so close to the cap. So that's why I was a little bit more apprehensive on approving that. But I think you guys made good points. Now, Debbie, I will say, if you want to keep it small, it's going to keep your taxes high because you're not going to have anything else to offset the property tax. So that's kind of the push and shove there, is that, we can have one but not the other. We can try to have, mix them together at least a little bit nicely and not have too much, but have enough to help out. So
I realize we're kind of veering off from the point of, are we going to exceed the revenue neutral rate? But it all kind of ties together, and I agree that we've talked about this a little bit earlier tonight, as well as previous meetings, where I'd really love to find a better source of funding for all these things that, in my opinion, I think we're going to need eventually, which a lot of people talk about needs and wants. We're not, in my opinion, I think Rhonda's done a fantastic job of really cinching up the belt, and people are asking for things, and the answer is, I'm sorry, no. It's just not in the budget. We don't have it. And so I think you've done a great job, and thank you for that, kind of what Chad was saying. Other sources to fund these things that we need, it's industry, it's commercial. That's what's gonna be, I think, a big funding stream for this, instead of having to put it on the taxpayer. That would be ideal. I feel like we're just at that bubble of growth where right now it's straining the individual. If we can get over the hump, and if we can get some industry in here to help kind of fund this versus the taxpayer, that would be the benefit. And that's where I think some of these increases might be going towards, is getting roads and things like that. I've looked at the CIP, there's a lot of sewer stuff on there, and maybe those types of things will get that industry here.
right, and that's something I was going.
That's the end game. That's the long game, to not have these conversations every year of, why is the taxpayer having to pay, you know, more every year, and then we can get to the point where we can just live off of increased valuation, you know, eventually. There's always gonna be something, right? But again, I like to look at the long game, and I feel like we're just on that bubble. And this is where it's a really tough decision for all of us to figure out, to Chad's point, the balance of what's appropriate for who we are and where we are right now.
And our current population actually, when Mrs. North, is actually about 9,500. So we've increased quite a bit over last year. So we're close to that 10,000 point. We're real close to where a lot of businesses are looking at Spring Hill, and but I agree with you that that's a lot of the funding that we need to come up with is for infrastructure, and
It's not glamorous.
right, it's not glamorous. It's
fancy
for
stuff.
sewer, it's for
ugly, gross.
infrastructure, it's for curb and gutter, it's for things that are needed to move development and commercial development and things to where we can bring that stuff here. Because without sewer and without infrastructure, places won't come. So it's not, you know, it's not sexy dollars. I mean, but it's stuff that has to be done. So, any other comments, questions?
Yeah, I'd just echo the same thoughts, and I think that to expand upon this, kind of going broad here, but I think that, you know, the accountability that goes along with government, so, you know, as I look out at our leaders in our government here, you know, we just need more good and great outcomes, right? So we're gonna ask you to do more with maybe less and increase productivity in areas that, you know, hopefully with new leadership positions being filled, you know, you guys will make some productivity improvements. I've already seen this, so I think that there's some, you know, the accountability is gonna shift back over to staff. So, you know, we need safer roads, and there's certainly some needs, but I think that by and large, the points that Debbie and Rodolfo made, these are valid points. I mean, we all hear that, so yeah, I think we need tangible results. So people need to see action tangibly. They need to see projects being accomplished. You know, Woodland Road's a disaster, so hopefully that'll get improved soon. I think we've been good stewards in the last year with the money that we've had, that you see that fit in this budget. We got a lot of road work done in the last year. I think that's you know, to bang our own drum, but that's a good one. You know, I think that was something that people asked for, and I think we've given them that. So that was a good use of resources. So the challenge is to continue that in the future, maybe on a minimalist budget. So my thoughts.
And just to put a little plug on that, on Woodland Road, we hope to have something prepared and back to us by the next meeting on Woodland Road. So there's light at the end of the tunnel. So. Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2023-R-21 to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate, but not to exceed 28 mills for the Spring Hill non-fire district.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. North,
Yes.
Mr. Van Houten,
Yes.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes.
Mr. Peel,
Yes.
Mayor Berkey.
Yes.
Resolution 2023-R-21 passes 600.
Thank you very much. At this point, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time, unless Mrs. Dunn, do you have anything else to add
No.
to it? All right.
Could you reread the motion?
You want me to, or you want Glenda to?
Sounded right.
How you ended it? 'Cause
I can
expect
to.
I have motion to approve resolution number 2023-R-21 to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate, but not to exceed
28
28 mills.
28 mills. Was how, okay.
in the non-fire district.
Mills for non-fire fire district.
The mill number is not necessary.
You don't have
It is
to,
in
but
the
you can.
resolution.
Yeah, it's just extra information.
Yeah, and it is in the resolution as well.
I didn't do that in the first one.
Yeah,
It's already been set, right? No.
Correct, yeah.
and it is in the
Number's already set.
resolution they're approving. I just wanted to add on a couple of things where we are in the process. Budget approval, you're gonna see the notice go in the Miami paper, for September 14th will be, the approval of the budget. You'll be seeing more and more information, come from me. I try not to, actually, let me go one thing first. I took a lot of notes tonight on what the public was saying. Every single person, I took notes about what they said, and I gave thought to, how do I put that to work, or how can I influence that, or what can I do? And I really don't like revenue neutral. It doesn't matter what I like, it's the law, and so we follow it. But I really think we need to spend some energy on our Kansas legislators and ask them to change it. At a minimum, that form has got to be improved. It's really, in my opinion, misleading to the public. Different words need to be selected, the way the data is presented. I think it's good to be transparent. I think it's got a good intention. I don't think it's coming across, just listening to the folks here who are very articulate and have a great story to tell. They don't get it from that form, so we can do better than that. I did want to make a comment that I don't calculate a mill levy, pick a number, any number, and okay, now I got $9 million to spend. Now what can I spend it on? That is not how I build a budget. I go the opposite way, where everybody tell me what you want, tell me what you need, tell me what's gonna happen, things we can't avoid, what's happening with Evergy's raising rates 4% and they're doing this. And then I add up that pile, and then I go over to revenue and I add up that pile. And then I do a lot of praying that it'll all come together. And when it doesn't, I do not go up to the mill levy and say, okay, now let's tweak this. I don't do that. I have to go through and say, okay, what has to give here? And when we start presenting that data to you, you're going to see a lot of take, where we are going to take from one pocket and put it in another to accomplish everything. I have built a budget on the existing mill levy. Okay? And then the extra mill levy that we need is to fund projects that we have been committed to up to this point. And so I just wanted you to know, want it balanced, again, at 35.993, thereabouts. And then I think it is a tough one. And 2024 is a year of hide and watch, and we'll see where it goes. But it was, as always, conservative to the environment we're in today. So the next step, you'll be seeing more pieces of the budget in great detail. I know Mr. Young has looked in detail, and I have whittled since then, here and there. And then the step after that, we have until September 30th. The struggle that I'm having is, we've asked you for a 5 mil increase. And I sat here taking notes as each of you spoke as well. And I don't want to waste anyone's time. I stand behind the 5 mils that we asked for, because we have a major project coming and major projects coming. This is a 10, 20-year plan. The struggle I have is, I don't like to bring things in here for you to say no. And I have deadlines looming. How am I going to go to the next step? So I welcome your input. You don't have to do it in public tonight if you don't want. I've had the opportunity to talk to a couple of you to know what to bring back to you. In the paper, it will be the 5 mil increase, because you can approve a budget for less than that. You cannot approve a budget for more than that. So that's what we'll put in the paper. So thank you for your input tonight, and I've taken lots of notes. We'll see what we can do.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next, we'll move on to consent agenda. And these are items that the staff considers to be routine maintenance. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next,
Can we take a break or I'm gonna run out of?
Me too. Just take a break.
what's it? Yeah, we're gonna recess into like a 2-minute break.
How about 5?
Probably need to.
Yeah, you need a motion.
I entertain a motion to recess into a 5-minute break.
I motion we recess for 5 minutes, returning at
Straight up 9.
9 o'clock.
Perfect. On Apple time.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. We will see you guys in 5 minutes. Everybody. Next, we'll go ahead and move on to formal council action. And the first item on the agenda is consider approval of appropriation order number 2023-08-24. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor on that one.
I'm very busy right now. Candy bucket, you want to start up here?
Was that what the appropriation order is for?
Might be here. You pass him a hat? No, I'm giving out candy. I'm trying to butter.
Pass it down and pass it back.
Emotional support candy.
And
Hey,
I do want to point out that we pay for the candy ourselves.
When we're talking about taxes, we need something to cheer us up, right?
M&M's is the first to come off the budget.
Next time it's going to be generic candy and bubble gum. That's all we got.
Dum-dums.
Appropriation in order. It's very straightforward tonight. We had a.
Is that microphone on?
I was probably not talking.
We can take that back here.
I'm on it. The appropriation order is very straightforward. It is nothing out of the ordinary. It is on the formal action because we had one invoice to J&T, and so we need your approval directly through the formal action.
Any questions or comments on that one? If not, I entertain a motion. Do you want to do that one? You have to.
I can.
You have to abstain from one.
I can still do it. I can
Okay.
still motion.
Okay.
I move to approve appropriation order number 2023-08-24.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
This will be a roll call. Because I have to abstain from part of it.
Uh,
Is that correct?
yeah.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and do a roll call on that one because of the J&T auto invoice. So Madam Clerk, if you could please take the roll.
Mr. Van Houten,
Yes.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes, with the exception that I abstain from any votes pertaining to J&T Auto Service.
Mr. Peel,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. North.
Yes.
Appropriation order number 2023-08-24 passes 5-0 with the exception stated by Mrs. Roth.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consider resolution number 2023-R-22, authorizing the issuance and delivery of $3,105,000 principal amount of general obligation temporary notes, Series 2023B, taxable under federal law of the city of Spring Hill, Kansas. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor again.
I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Ben Hart from Baker Tilly, and I just wanted to say that we had the bids. We received 4 bids, and we were pleasantly surprised that the interest rate came in at about 5.5%, which is less than the 6% they were estimating, especially for taxable bonds, which are not nearly as popular. So I think we are making a little progress there, and the point of these bonds will be used for the Wiswell Farms project. This will not be debt paid by taxpayers, it will be debt paid through a long string of things, the RID, special benefits until the houses are built and sold, things like that. So this will not be paid by taxpayers.
So she just took 75% of what I was gonna say, so it's gonna be a lot shorter, which Rhonda's great about it. Yeah, so it's at 10 o'clock, it was 10 o'clock this morning, and the way those bids work, it's opened up to the investing public. It's usually investment banks that register for those bids. In the past, when rates were really, really low, we saw maybe 1 or 2 bids coming in. Nobody was really interested. Nowadays, the market's really active. Unfortunately, we're dealing with an investment or interest rate market where the short-term rates are really high, which we consult with several cities. Their interest revenues, they're enjoying a boost, a big boost in interest revenues coming in. But on the other side, when you issue temporary notes, the rates tend to be up. The rates that, the 5.5% that Rhonda just mentioned is still within like a 23-year average of high and low. It's still within that range. It's toward the higher part, but it's still within that. So it's not outside the normal. These are two-year temporary notes. Commerce Bank, Kansas City, Missouri actually bought the bonds, so they're staying, the money's staying local with those guys. The low bid was 5.50 out of Commerce, and the high bid was 6.15. About 3 weeks ago, we sold temporary notes at just over 6%. So these interest rates are going, we're seeing a decrease a little bit. They're taxable, obviously, because of the backstop you have with the developers, which is a really smart idea when it comes to benefit districts. The city applied for a rating. Your long-term rating is a AA. They also rate short-term notes at a different scale. These are SP +1, which is the highest rating you can get on a temporary note. But some of the comments they made in the narrative was residential growth contributed to strong value growth in the community, and that attributes to the additional population you see coming in and the additional expansion in businesses that we've been part of. Very strong available reserves, and that's great. They also look at policies, the policies you set and you keep refreshed. And Lane and Rhonda do a great job of putting that together. That actually goes in and gets weighed as part of that score. Strong management, that was a direct comment that goes in there. Strong management supported by good financial practices. And the last thing was a relatively high burden, debt burden, but it's mitigated by rapid amortization. So if you're going to have debt, pay it off fast. That's essentially what you're doing. And that's a good position to be in. The way the city does these type of bonds, obviously special assessments, that where the neighborhood that's growing is paying for that infrastructure instead of everybody else. And that's a very important tool that you guys use very well in this process. Then there's several cities within the metro area on the Kansas side that use this type of tool, but I don't think they use it like you guys do, and you're very judicious about that process. With that, we would recommend approval of Commerce Bank at 5.50.
Any questions or comments on that?
Payment date, when we'll receive the funds. It's in September, I just don't know when.
Yeah, it's the end of September.
21.
September 21.
Yeah.
Do you have something to add, Mr. Ellsworth?
I do. Mayor and Council, Tyler Ellsworth with QTAC Rock Law Firm, City's Bond Counsel. I do want to echo the sentiments that Ms. Dunn and Mr. Hart already shared about what I think was a phenomenal result in terms of the interest rate today. And add 2 points. One is part of what the resolution does that's before you tonight for consideration is kind of a housekeeping item. You have policies in place that I think were adopted in 2012 that relate to post-issuance compliance when the city issues debt. Half of those policies relate to maintaining the federal tax exemption on interest rates, where you have tax exempt debt issues. This is taxable, but most of your debt is tax exempt. And the other half of that set of policies relates to federal securities laws. And the cleanup change we're making is there was a tweak in one of the securities laws regulations a few years ago, and it changed some of the provisions. And so in your agenda packet tonight, there's a red line version of what those policy changes were, and I just wanted to draw that to your attention. That's point number one. The second point is just that normally when we come before you and have kind of a placeholder for like the par amount in a bond issue, bond resolution, note resolution, normally it goes down slightly because we get a premium, and so the amount that's in the agenda is decreased by the time we bring it to you at the meeting. In this case, it actually went up a few $100,000. And the reason for that was because we identified some additional project costs and wanted to make sure that we took the opportunity tonight to finance those additional costs through this note issue. So just wanted to make you aware of that as well. Again, as Mr. Hart said, you all do a phenomenal job of making sure that development pays for itself through a benefit district and a RID in this case, and the developer backstopping this debt. So this is a good opportunity to take advantage of those tools and capture those increased project costs, but wanted to make you aware of that as well. So
I was going to ask you about the change. Is it additional cost, or is it pulling costs from somewhere else and adding it to this because of the rate?
The rate, yeah.
The rate.
no, it's additional cost. It's appropriate to the benefit district project.
Okay.
It's not some of it relates to the road and some of it relates to an adjacent water line.
So it didn't actually pull from anywhere, it was actual addition, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Any further questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to adopt resolution number 2023-R-22, authorizing the issuance and delivery of $2,785,000.
$3,105,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, $3,105,000 principal amount of general obligation temporary notes, Series 2023 Bravo, taxable under federal law, of the city of Spring Hill, Kansas, for the purpose of temporarily financing the cost of certain internal improvements of the city and approving revisions of the city's existing post-issuance tax compliance policies and procedures.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Can I get a recess?
I'll take
I'm kidding.
If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consider waiving section 2.04D of the Spring Hill Purchasing Policy to award a construction contract for the 215th and Columbia Sanitary Sewer Extension Project to Redford Construction Company in the amount of $205,244. Butchered it too.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Miller, sorry, you have the floor.
Members of the council, I come before you today with the action item described by the mayor. As the council's aware, previously this year, the city approved a development agreement to provide off-site sewer service to developments in the 215th and Columbia area, the first of which is the Avondale Meadows, formerly we called Gosel Farms Development. The city development agreement requires the project to be constructed publicly with public construction administration and observation, but also caps city costs at $600,000. So the developer is proposing to use Redford Construction for this project based on the private bids that they took. Normally, we would have publicly bid a project like this. And they're also desire to provide continuity because Redford will be also constructing the private improvements for that subdivision, well, the public infrastructure for the private subdivision. Redford is a reputable contractor, certainly has the resources to complete this project, and the city purchasing policy does provide for waiving bids under certain conditions such as this. Staff does recommend accepting the bid from Redford. The alternatives, of course, are to approve it, prepare construction documents, proceed with construction, remand it back to staff if you have questions or modifications, or not approve the task of the bid, which would be in conflict with the already approved development agreement, I guess is what I could say about that. The bid is our city standard bid form, and once we award a bid, then of course we prepare a set of standard construction documents. Bonds mostly are the most important thing in there in an agreement, or get those reviewed by the city attorney after execution, and then we'll have those executed by staff and start construction. I do have the bid attached for your reference. This expenditure will come out of the wastewater cash reserves from the system and development fees and will not impact the operating budgets. Again, our obligation is capped at $600,000. With that, I would recommend acceptance of the bid for the 215th and Columbia Sanitary Sewer Extension in the amount of $1.205244 million. Authorize the mayor and staff to execute the construction contract after review by the city attorney, and I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
So the difference between the bid and what our obligation is, we're not having to cover that?
That's to be paid for by the developer, according to the development agreement, yes. That's private, so, you know, we all wanna do it as economically as possible, but we're not as concerned with the low bid
Yeah.
as we otherwise would be.
Yeah.
It'll, up to $1 million will be direct payment, well, it will be a reimbursement as we move through the project, yeah.
So they reimburse us?
We bill them as we go, yeah, because we have to pay the contractor.
So essentially, they're just wanting to use one of their contractors to streamline and make it easier for them. Is that the gist of it?
Essentially, yeah, there's a number of reasons to use them, and they did take private bids from other qualified, Emery Sapp and Sons, other contractors as well.
So we'll charge them to pay us back, not through tax or anything, it's an actual payment?
Yes.
Okay.
And so it's not costing us any more than it would have, it's just, this is how we're.
Just a different way.
Yeah, it's just a different way to do
It's
it.
waiving process.
Right.
Correct.
This is also paid from the wastewater fund, as from development fees and things like that, is not through the general fund, through any tax dollars.
Do we, you said they're a reputable company. Has the city ever worked with this company before?
Not since I've been working with the city, but I've worked with them in other communities pretty extensively.
No concerns.
No.
I'll say I've seen their name on stuff.
Yeah. Developer likes them.
It makes sense to use who they're using.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion on that one.
I move, recommend waiving section 2.04 delta of the Spring Hill purchasing policy and accept the bid from Redford Construction Company for the 215th and Columbia Road sanitary sewer extension in the amount of $1,205,244 and authorize the mayor and staff to execute the construction contract after review by the city attorney.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of task order number 2023-08 for construction period services for Lampreneerson, 215th Street and Columbia Road Sanitary Sewer Extension Project. And Mr. Miller, you still have the floor.
Thank you. So the project we just discussed will, of course, as I mentioned, require public oversight, construction administration, and observation. We plan to do that similar to the way we're handling Webster Road up adjacent to Wiswell Farms by a combination of some staff, in-house Spring Hill staff, providing some guidance education and saving the city some money by having them do the bulk of the construction observation, while your city engineer will provide the construction administration and assist with our construction observer, who's very seasoned, that'll be be observing the adjacent private development. So it's going to be a very similar arrangement. Save the city a little, or the project a little bit of money, at least over having all the construction observation done privately. We propose to do that. Staff does recommend approval of the task order in the amount of $61,266. We can approve it and proceed, deny it and come up with a different plan, I suppose, or if you have any questions that staff needs to go back and address, we'd be happy to do that. Task orders, the city standard that you've seen many, many times, has been reviewed by the city attorney, that form. Do have that task agreement attached, and this expenditure also will be drawn from wastewater cash reserves, some system development fees. And again, because the city cost is capped at $600,000, this is part of the ultimately the amount of money that the developer will end up having to pay. So with that, I recommend approval of the task order to provide construction period services and authorize the mayor and staff to execute the task order. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So you said this will be reimbursed by the developer then, because it's part of the 600?
As a part of all the, yes, along with the construction costs.
Okay.
So we're not paying this above the 600?
That's correct.
Locked in at 600?
Yes.
Falls on the developer.
That's a pretty good deal.
That's a really good deal.
No, take it. Yeah. I don't have any questions. Anybody else?
No.
With that, I entertain a motion.
I recommend approval of the Lampreneerson task order number 2023-08 to provide construction period services and authorize the mayor and staff to execute the task order.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
I do have one more question.
Sure.
If that's the case, then why wouldn't we just let you guys charge for all of it so we don't have to take our manpower to help do the monitoring? Because you say it's a
I don't know that I have an exact answer to that. We've been trying to you've lost some staff over the last few years that was pretty experienced at some of these types of
This helps
things.
more
And
with
so we're really trying to train up some staff, educate. You have your codes inspector is a really sharp young man and seems to be picking this stuff up fast. So I think having city staff that's able to do multiple things is a benefit to the city
That's a
overall.
good reason. Yeah, I'm like, well, if we're not paying for it.
That's a
why
good
would we pay
question.
More to not use our staff. But yeah, if it's more for the learning curve, then yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider change order number 2 and number 3 to the street maintenance base repair and crack seal project with McEnany Construction, Inc. of Shawnee, Kansas, in the total amount of $286,243.75. And Mr. Miller, you still have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate your willingness to allow us to modify this agenda item slightly to get change order 2 and 3 into it this evening. As you know, McEnany Construction has been doing quite a bit of the street maintenance work on the city. We proposed earlier in the year to have them do the Lone Elm work. It's really part of the bond, but we are just delivering it through the street maintenance program. I think they've done a superior job of that. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Change order 2 relates to Lone Elm. We did in fact have to do some additional street subgrade repairs and base repairs. When we dug up some of the base, it was kind of like black jello underneath it. And so we had to make those holes bigger and deeper to get a solid street. So that $54,916 in change order 2 relates to the extra base repairs on Lone Elm. And you've heard me say before that I'm a very firm believer that, you know, there's no point in putting good asphalt up top if you don't have a good base, because it's just, that's what was one of the problems with Lone Elm up to this point, was we kept chipping it and paving it and it just wouldn't hold together. Change order 3, as mentioned earlier, paves Victory Road with 3 inches asphalt from 223rd Street south to the city limits. We'll add some new pavement markings, a little bit of minor base repairs. And it also had some Lone Elm elements in it, including the pavement markings. We did not originally have pavement markings out there, and we added those at the request of the city. With that, staff recommends approving the proposed change orders. The change orders, again, city standard, has been reviewed by the city. The street maintenance program, these funds are coming from 2 sources. The street maintenance program portion is coming from the ARPA money in Miami County highway tax funds. And then change order 2 will be paid for out of the 2021A or 2023A bond funds. With that, I'd recommend approving change orders 2 and 3 from McEnany Construction, Inc. in the amount of $286,243.75. And I would be happy to answer any questions. I would make one other statement, that yes, Woodland, we've got an agreement. We've got the funding from Rhonda, and we've got an agreement on Woodland Road with the contractor. I've spent quite a bit of time out there over the last week, and we'll be bringing that change order to you to pave Lone Elm Road at the next council meeting.
Woodland Road.
Woodland Road. Got too many roads in my head.
So going over this with just the 3-inch of asphalt, not milling it down, will that improve? Because I know Victory's kind of been like.
Well, Victory's just a chip seal on rock. There's not any asphalt out
top
there.
of that.
So we're going over the top of the chip, yeah. We want to add structure wherever we can.
Okay, we won't have issues, you think, with it falling through, like you said. Is the base pretty?
It's pretty solid. We already did quite a few base repairs, and we've got a couple other intersections to pick up as a part of this, as I mentioned, but it's pretty solid out there.
Okay.
I can't tell you it's a 20-year project fix, but it'll be a great enhancement.
Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things we were talking about earlier in the evening, South Victory, getting going, so, yeah.
And they are working on Lincoln. They've started tear out at the south end of Lincoln already this week. And they'll be working 183rd Street. We've been waiting on a KDOT permit that we hopefully have today. So they'll be working 183rd as well.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve change order numbers 2 and 3 to the street maintenance, base repair, and crack seal project with McEnany Construction, Inc. of Shawnee, Kansas, in the total amount of $286,243.75.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of transfers from 3 funds to the Capital Improvement Fund for the cost of improvements for Veterans Park. And Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor again.
Last item, I'll make it really quick. We have done a lot of great work out at Veterans Park, and I just need to move the money to one place to cover what we've done out there. The money's obviously in hand. In the details that you were given, we've spent $694,475 on the project out there. That included a number of change orders in the original bid, as well as the additional battle crosses and things like that. We received donations of $240,371, and those are sitting in a donation fund, which will need to be transferred. The remaining balance of $454,000 will come from two places. I just didn't want to run either of these funds very low, so I split it between them. Special Parks will pay $298,000, and the sales tax for Parks and Recreation will pay $156,000. And I'll take any questions from you. Beautiful place, I think.
Where will that leave those two at?
I will tell you, I didn't bring that in here. Special Parks, I believe Special Parks has close to $1 million in it.
Okay.
We just paid the bond payment from that, and then this payment, so it'll be about in the $500,000 range.
Okay.
And then I don't know, I'll look that up. I might be misleading you, but, I'll be happy to pass that back to you.
We're not running them to zeros, which
Not anywhere, I know. And I wanted to make sure we weren't running one really low and leaving one really high, and that the sales tax was approved in support of, then City Park, now Veterans Park. So it's a good place to put that sales tax money to work.
I like the funds where you pulled it from. That's appropriate. It'll be a great place, that Veterans
Yes.
Park.
We're getting ready for the Veterans Day unveiling event, which will be great as well.
yeah, the pictures look cool.
We're also working on irrigation and new sod and things to really finish the project out nicely.
Yeah, a plug for that is Veterans Day is
Yep.
when we'll be having the Veterans Park unveiling, so.
Yes.
November 11th.
Yep. 10 a.m.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. I was gonna do it in my announcements and reports, but yeah,
Sure.
10 a.m.
So it's still your-
10 a.m. November 11th. Invite everybody out. That'll be the dedication of the memorial. So
Be great.
Saturday.
it's on a Saturday, so you don't have to miss. Well, most of you probably don't have to miss work. Some of you might have to, but it'd be a great thing to come out to, and I think it'll be really enjoyable. We would love to have lots of people out there, and yeah, we got some fun things planned, and some other fun things that we hope we can have planned.
Good. Another thing I will tell you, and I don't think Rodolfo's gone home, the Spring Hill Rotary Club made a donation in the amount of $6,000 to Veterans Park to purchase the flags that will go along the street into the memorial, which is a great thing as well. And they're working on a program to maybe find other ways to fundraise toward that and make sure it happens year after year. So, more good improvements out there.
Yeah, the flag display is gonna be really neat.
Yeah.
It is really cool.
Kudos to the Rotary Club. That's
Yep.
appreciated.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the inter-fund transfers for construction costs for Veterans Park.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0.
Thank you for
very
your
much.
time.
With that, we'll end formal council action at this time and move on to announcements and reports. I already did most of mine. The only other one I really wanted to highlight is it's obviously very warm outside. So just reminding citizens out there that we do have the cooling center open here at City Hall during the day. So if you need to get in and out of the heat, feel free to come down here and stay cool. So with that, Mrs. Roth, got anything?
I wanted to comment on the participation this evening. I think you said, Chip, that this is how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to say, here's what we'd like to do based on the input that we've been receiving up to this point. And then obviously we want input, from the community from this point forward. And again, not just necessarily here at the podium, but continue to give us your feedback on everything we've discussed tonight. So I think that's how it's supposed to work. So thank you for everyone that came tonight and gave their input. I also wanted to say thank you to Miss Burdine for coming out and helping us make that proclamation for Suicide Prevention Month. It doesn't take very long to look around the room and see people who have been affected or, there was a gentleman I think spoke publicly, talked about, he lost his son at 21 years old. you had spoke to somebody that you knew. Again, it doesn't take long. And obviously our previous mayor, he experienced that firsthand. So this is definitely something that we need to be talking about. And I think our community has been talking about it. Not sure if you were on the email, but the city's already been partnering with lots of different organizations. Zero Reasons Why. I know lots of people came in and got QPR certified. I got QPR certified. Mental health isn't talked about enough. So thank you for raising that flag and getting people to talk about it and getting it out and making it normal. So thank you for that push and thank you for coming tonight.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Mr. Van Houten,
No report.
Mr. Peel.
No report. I just want to apologize for my outburst earlier this evening, and let everybody know that I also apologize to Mr. Arvalo at our break. So
I appreciate that.
it's out of line. Got a little bit frustrated and let it boil over too much.
I appreciate that.
It's passion.
I tried not to step up and say too much. I wanted to let you guys kind of hash it out. But appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mr. Young,
No report.
Mrs. North,
No report.
Mr. Massey,
No report.
Mr. Burton.
I'll make it quick. I did, it's a good, for that sewer line to have, that'll be Brandon out there. It's 25 to 28 foot deep. We're gonna buck a grade. We don't get many of those, and it's a prescribed backfill, so I thought it'd be good for him to be out there. And Lamper Nearson did really work well with us and reduce that cost, as you probably saw in today.
Yeah.
And then I just want to make sure that everyone knows that we did have a lot of new businesses come in. Some of them we just miss, like you don't think about them because you don't stop and get the drink it like you do QT. But, you know, we have Monarch Concrete and all that whole area up there, as well as
Gemtech.
Family Dollar also and all. So those are businesses that we, you know, QT we're always in and out of, but we have had pretty good success here lately. So, and we'll just keep working on it. So,
Yep. Thank you to you and your department for working hard on that. Appreciate it. Chief Henson,
No report.
Mr. Lowe,
No report.
Madam Clerk,
No report.
Mrs. Dunn, is there any more you could possibly add?
And more chocolate if you need.
Mrs. Jones.
No, please do.
All right, with that, we'll move on to executive session number 1. Somebody can make a motion to that. I believe that first one, we need approximately 10 minutes.
Does anybody need a break or are we okay?
I think we're good. If everybody else had a break earlier, I think we're probably good.
I'm good.
Okay. I move the city council recess into executive session for 10 minutes to receive advice of council to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel of KSA 75-4319 Bravo 1 of the Kansas Open Meetings Act, to discuss potential hire of non-elected personnel. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at 9:46 p.m. No formal action is anticipated following the session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Mr. Jacob Spear, Mr. Lane Massey, City Administrator.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. We will see.
Yeah, I know, man, but I can't remember. Yeah, no. McLeod.
Pretty much everybody on our street is in that class.
It's cool.
It's kind of weird.
That's fun though.
Yeah.
I can see
So just jump straight to discuss personnel matters.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened into open meeting at 9:46 PM. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated. With that, we'll move on to executive session number 2. With the second one, I believe we need 20 minutes. And with that, I entertain a motion.
I move the city council recess into executive session for 20 minutes to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel of KSA 75-4319 Bravo 1 of the Kansas Open Meetings Act to discuss performance evaluations. The open meeting will resume in the city council chambers at 10:07. No formal action is anticipated following session. Persons to be in attendance are the following: Mr. Spencer Lowe, city attorney, and Mr. Lane Massey, city administrator.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will see you guys shortly.
So that, police officer, very.
That doesn't happen too often, does it?
No, you can't go into open session until,
Until '07.
well, you said 07, but you said 20 minutes, which was not, well,
Was it not the right one?
see, you said 20 minutes, but that would have been 10.
10:07.
until-
Isn't that what you said?
Just wait 7 minutes.
Okay. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Let the record reflect that the governing body reconvened in open meeting at 10:07 PM. No votes were taken or decisions made during the executive session. The discussion was limited to the subject stated, and with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0-0. Have a good night, everybody.